Hey-ho, Trish here, continuing our reading. A little bit late getting on today, which won't matter if you're watching the recording, but I've been working today on preparing a talk that I'm going to do a Zoom for the Michigan chapter of professional organisers about self-care. So I thought it would be good to do a topic of self-care for those in lockdown from someone who was locked up. You like that? Yeah, there you go. So there are some, I have to do some more videos in that field of self-care, because strongest prison bars are in your head. So it's really important to self-care. Anyway, that's not what this one's about. It's just a one-page journal entry. This is not a letter. This is just my own observations. In some ways, unbelievers are far more judgmental than Christians, because Christians are often accused of being judgmental. Christians, we at least understand temptation, the influence of the devil, who is very real, and his ability to create the perfect storm so we fail. We get that there's an agenda out there to try and trip us up. Some people don't believe that in evil or the devil or something like that, but I tell you what, you spend any amount of time in prison and you will meet people that you just know. Oh my goodness, they've been so bound and so trapped, and it's just otherworldly, some of the things that have happened to them and what's going on in them. Anyway, but we also understand grace and repentance, at least theoretically, and we do. We know that there's always a redemption story there somewhere, that there's hope. What I'm observing is the hypocrisy of someone judging anyone whose morals are lower than their own, but their own bar is not set very high. I don't get it, except to go back to the instinctive need for a person who has low self-esteem to look down on someone else. This doesn't just happen in prison. This has happened in also, like this happens in the schoolyard, in high school, and it happens. I was at a workplace that I won't name early in my career, and it was mostly young, outgoing, 20-somethings mostly in there, and fairly promiscuous, and yet they would sit around the lunch table and criticize the one that was more promiscuous than them. And I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Anyway, well, maybe I do, because I understand the psychology of it, but it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's about looking down on someone so they don't feel so crappy themselves, I guess. In prison, many women are critical of prostitutes, yet there are plenty of them here. A drug addict generally has 3 choices for obtaining drugs when the habit gets expensive. So they deal drugs to get drugs. She'll prostitute herself to get drugs. And 3, become the girlfriend of a drug dealer to get drugs. There's also stealing to get money to get drugs, but very often women are in there because they're the co-accused of men who did a lot of breaking and enters and things, and they would maybe house the products that they've been stolen, so they're accessories very often. Not that I'm an expert in all the ins and outs of what happens there, but this is what I've been learning about. So apparently it is more respectable to deal drugs than to sell sex to get drugs. I don't understand that thinking. I kind of think when you sell sex to get drugs, it's just you and consenting adult, well, whatever. I mean, I know prostitution's not good. I'm not condoning it. But when you're dealing drugs, you're increasing the problem. Well, both of them are bad. But it's like there's something somehow more respectable. It's almost that hypocritical part of our Puritan society that still says that anything sexual to do with a woman has to be controlled and is bad. So once again, I'm not saying prostitution's okay, but there's this looking down on women for using their sexuality. when sometimes it's all they've got when they're poor and desperate. Okay, yes, they'd rather be a dealer than, anyway. I met a very sweet young woman who was here for drug trafficking. She described how she and her husband slid into that world. It was somehow a bit more exciting than alcohol at a party. Now, 10, 12 years on, people talk about party drugs like it's and recreational drug use like it's okay, like it's harmless, like alcohol, and that's really frightening. Okay. You wouldn't pick her for an addict. She was a respectable middle-class wife and mother, yet her life was taken over. Now she has a strong resolve to go straight. Well, you hear that a lot. Another lovely friend pointed to someone in the newspaper. He was one of the Joe Public who had been asked a survey question. So there was a page and they had some sort of question and they asked like 3 different people their opinion on something in the paper. And he looked like, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Bless you. He looked like a nice, respectable fellow. And she says, "Oh, I sold him a lot of drugs over time." I'm like, oh. Ordinary people. And that's the end of my journal notes, because they're not like a letter where I know who I'm writing to. This was just my own thoughts. So I don't mind. Agree, disagree, that's fine. And if you want to get your own copy of the book, you can go to my website, speakertrishjenkins.com/store. So, I really should be prepared enough to have that already written down. There we are, speakertrishjenkins.com, and just go to the store there. Alrighty, well, see you next time. Bye.